What's the furthest you'd go to get the shot?
Cheers.
Welcome to After Hours. This is the photography show where we just get together and chat about everything photography. We have Scott Alak, Nicholas Papagallo, I'm Susie Taylor, and this is Sprague Limbaugh. Today we're going to talk about what's the furthest that you've gone or you're willing to go to get the shot. So let's start with Nick. What's the furthest you'd go? What's the furthest you've gone?
Why do we start with me?
We never start with you.
I'm like the new Sprague now.
We never start with you. We always start with one of us.
Right. We always start with me.
I'm in charge.
And no embarrassing
You're first.
anecdotes that will make someone cry.
What's the farthest that we've gone to get the shot? Well, the farthest I've gone, metaphorically, not distance-wise, would be getting up super early at Monument Valley while everyone else slept because it was downpouring rain. And Ken, that is about you. You were still sleeping. So I was with some friends up there, calling you out.
That's right.
I'll
wake
look for
up.
Bus tracks on him later.
I open up my tent and it's pouring, and I closed it back up, and then
He is an explorer of light, yes.
Yeah, there was no light.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I thought. And I was like, I laid back down, and I opened it up and looked outside, still pouring, and like, I should get up. We came all up to Monument Valley, and it was just a friend's trip. It actually wasn't a workshop. And I knocked on their tent, which was kind of like splat, splat, splat. And then I said, you guys want to come out and go shoot sunrise? Which I never do. I'm a sunset kind of person, so I don't know why I was motivated to go that day. And no, is it raining? Yeah, you don't hear it. It's raining. No, we're not going to go. So I get back in my tent and like, should I really go? And got everything ready, and I could see Monument Valley because we stayed at the campsite across the way, and got in there and drove over and was exhausted and went to my tree, not your all trees, which is a little curved tree. We'll put a picture of it
photo
up there.
right there.
Yeah, that photo right there.
That one, yeah.
That's a cropped version of it. Thank you. But there's a better one. And so I had my little curved tree, and I knew exactly where I was going. I went there, and I sat in the rain for a very long time and was sitting and had two cameras going, and it was boring shots felt like forever, especially in the rain and everything. And all of a sudden it was like 15 or 18 seconds, the sun broke through, and that happened. The entire sky, all the rain lit up, and I'm soaked by this point, like, 'cause I wasn't prepared, and cameras were all getting wet, and it just lit up, and I started just shooting the cameras like crazy. And then you could see in my pictures of it, if it was a time lapse, that it's like gray, blah, 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 explosion of color, and then back to nothing 18 seconds later. And it was just like, well, that was worth getting up for. I could have slept through it and never knew it even happened, and no one else was out. I didn't see anyone out. There was no cars driving around, and there was the only one out and awake because it was just raining. And it just serendipitously, like we were talking about before, just happened. And I was like, almost like, did that just happen? Kind of like was still tired and like, holy, like heart was going like this. And I was like, and I was actually walking back to the car when it happened. I saw the reflection of it I had one camera still going, and I was walking back to get something else out of the car, and I saw like light coming up on there, and I was like, what is that? And turned around, and it just started to glow, and then just as fast as it came, it was gone. So wake up early, go out and shoot.
Sprague, what's the furthest lengths you've gone?
Well, probably this year I went down to Cuba, which is the only country the U.S. has an embargo against travel for. So, and it was a long swim, I want to tell you, but I made it. So actually there were about 8 different instances that allow you to go from the United States to Cuba, and a travel license for us as photographers was about the only one that was allowed outside of something that the government can do. So we were actually pretty fortunate because we, rather than having to go up to Canada or down to Mexico to go, we were able to fly straight out of Miami International on an American Airlines charter to Havana. And for me, it was a really remarkable experience because unlike most islands in the Caribbean, the Cubans have quite a bit more infrastructure built up, and and the people there were just remarkable. And I was able to go and see kids in schools, and we went in downtown Havana. They had torn out between the two buildings they'd built in some stands and a boxing arena, and there were a bunch of kids from ages generally from 6 up to about 18 that were practicing for a boxing tournament, and everything there just looked right out of the 50s. They drive cars, basically 1950s vintage U.S. cars, and some Russian cars, and all of them probably maintain more out of necessity than anything else because that's all they've really been able to do. So they're in various states of repair. A lot of them are used as cabs, and it's really just remarkable to be looking out your hotel room window at night in downtown Havana, and you look out and it's just smoky and it's dark, and you see these cars just going up and down the street, and you hear all of this lively Cuban music going with it. And the pictures that we were able to get were just absolutely remarkable. When you get off the airplane, it's unlike any other experience I've ever had. I've been to probably over 50 countries, and a lot of it is what you expect, but nothing really can prepare you for this experience because you step off and you step out and you look and you say, I don't believe it. It's just...
You mentioned infrastructure. What did you mean by that?
Well, in terms of buildings, I mean, a lot of them are, they've got, lots of high-rise buildings and a lot that you don't see in places like Haiti or Dominican Republic or down in the Bahamas and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of it is really more of a beachy type of a look. But I mean, this is just sort of an old, crumbling, industrial-looking city that is remarkably clean. I mean, they keep the whole city pristine, but what they're lacking is, a lot of things with plumbing and wiring and the like.
Materials to maintain.
Yeah, and that's basically what they lack. But yeah, it was really a fantastic experience. And
you came away with some keeper images.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting about going to a place like Cuba is, in a lot of travel situations, you're trying to find something to shoot. But in this particular situation, you can stand on a street corner for an hour and do nothing but shoot what comes by you, and you'll have some incredible shots. I mean, you just don't have to hunt for them. Everything that you get is just astonishing.
That sounds great. Scott, what kind of lengths have you gone to get the shot?
To get the shot, to get a shot.
A shot.
There was a shot that I had thought of that I was looking for something, a lot of Arizona, a lot of the iconic imagery that you find in Arizona, it's usually up in northern Arizona, around Page, Grand Canyon, places like that. I was looking for something a little bit closer to home, something that I can capture that was a little bit different, something that nobody else has ever captured before. And I found this small little monument just south of Tucson, I believe. It was the Chiricahua National Monument. And they have this balance rock. Now, I've photographed balance rocks before up in Utah and, all over the place. They have balance rocks all over the place. But this particular one had never been photographed the way that I had, envisioned that would be a cool, iconic shot. And so I thought, well, maybe that would be really cool to do this at nighttime, get the Milky Way, light painted, do all this and do it in a way that has never been done. And so I scoured the internet, I looked for photographs, didn't see anything like what I was envisioning. And so I did my research, wanted to find out, when the Milky Way would be out, when it would be, the moon would be completely dark, and then I picked my date and I went out, and this is about a 2-hour drive from where I live. So I drove 2 hours to get to this national monument. I checked into the ranger station, And I checked in the ranger station. They had a photograph of it, and it was during the daytime. It was like, this is the way everyone sees this national monument. And so I said, I want to go photograph that, but I want to do it at night. Is that okay? And she said, yeah, it's okay, but there's nobody out there. I was literally the only person who was on the trail for that time. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go. And it was about an 1.5-hour hike, and I was by myself the whole time. And it was kind of spooky, kind of like creepy, because they had this part of the forest that had been burned out. And it was burned out, so you had all these like charred like trees like that. Yeah. Like it was just
the
spooky.
Skeletons of
and
what
it was starting to
before.
get dark, and I was walking through this, but it was the thing that I remember was that it was dead silent. And I mean dead silent. I could literally hear my own heartbeat. That's because I was hiking, and I could feel my heart pound in my chest. I could hear that. That's how dead silent it was. There was no critters, no insects, no nothing moving around. It was so quiet. It was deafening quiet. It was the most surreal thing I've ever experienced. And I finally got to the place where I was at. And when I got there, I had about 15 minutes to work, because the solar system, or the Milky Way, had just come up, and it had just positioned itself so that it was just right in between the balance rocks where I was wanting to photograph. So I had about 15 minutes. I set it all up. I kind of light painted it with my flashlight, and I kind of got a good shot. I mean, was it the iconic shot that I was envisioning? Probably not, but I'd probably have to go back again a few times to like get the one that I really want. But it was a meaningful shot to me, because, and it was still a pretty killer shot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still a good shot, but I didn't have the time to perfect it in the time that I was there. But it was still an incredible shot. And I remember that when I was shooting it, I said, no wonder nobody's ever gotten this shot. This is freaking crazy. I was out there by myself, and then I had all these these concerns going through my head. If anything were to happen to me, if I sprained my ankle, I mean, my cell phone doesn't work up here. I mean, I'm literally out here by myself in the middle of nowhere. And then just as I saw it, I could hear like the satellite screech across the sky, and it was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It was just loud. It just screeching across, and I've never heard a satellite like that ever. I've never heard that before, and it was so loud. And then that whole surreal experience, and then walking back, and I remember a snake like skittered across right like 2 feet in front of me, and it freaked me out, because that was the only thing that ever moved the whole time I was out there. It was so dead silent. It was bizarre.
So the moral of the story is go with a buddy.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend doing that by
Take
yourself.
a buddy.
He had a buddy, he had a snake.
Right.
I definitely wouldn't recommend doing that. But
cut your arm off.
Yeah.
I actually met that guy, by the way.
Oh.
I was living in Colorado. Never mind, that's a different story. But yeah, that was probably the farthest that I've ever gone just to get a shot. And I got there. It was like I said, 2-hour drive, an 1.5-hour hike up there, 15 minutes of shooting, and then an 1.5-hour hike back, and then 2-hour drive home.
So the other, and you didn't just go to lengths in terms of time and distance and the hiking effort and stuff. You did the research and the upfront kind of lengths to prepare to get the shot once you got there, and put it all together and realize what you had envisioned. And so that can take that into account when you are thinking about what lengths you can go to get the shot. So this has been After Hours, sponsored by PAC, and we are happy that you could join us, and come back and follow us on the website, follow us on social media, and let us know what you think. Tell us about some of your trips and adventures, your efforts that you've gone to get the shot. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers.